Alrighty guys, welcome to week 4 and 5. This project I'm going to give you a couple weeks to do. What it's going to be, you'll see as we create it, but it'll be a page where you can type in some information and search for something in a JSON document, and it will display on the page what you're typing. And it'll need to be styled and such. So if we come through and we're going to look at the requirements real quick, and then we'll probably revisit them at the end. You need to at least have 7 items that can be searched through. Each one of those items need to have at least 5 attributes that can be searched as well. Each item should have a picture. Okay, on the page, basically the page needs to be styled and look incredible. Okay. The search result should be collapsed at first, and then when you mouse over it, it will expand. We'll show you that when we get there. We're going to add CSS animations and transitions to load the data and collapse and expand it. The information that you put in here should have a central theme. I'm going to do Ninja Turtles. I'm going to stick with that because they're awesome. And, just that. I mean, it's just going to be weird if you have a rock and then a seagull and then, I don't know, some other thing like a hat, and you get all these things. It just doesn't make any sense. So just make sure there's a central theme and it makes sense on, what you're doing. Okay, and then the search function, the function should search everything in your JSON document. And we'll go over that when we get there. So what I've done is, let's show you how I set this up. So we're going to have a CSS file. We're going to have the data with the JSON file here. I got my HTML file and then my JavaScript file. And then in here I have the 4 turtles, and then I'm going to have a little logo. So I'm going to have 4 things that we're going to be able to search through, an entry for each of these guys. You need 7, right? At least 7. If you're going to do more, fine. So let's show you what the JSON looks like. That's probably what you'll want to do first, is get all your images first, and then create the JSON file next. So if I take a look at it, let's get rid of the split here. So I have an entry for each turtle. So start the JSON document, create the first key value, right? So we have here, the key is name, and his name is Leonardo. And then I have another key, which is Nick, for like nickname, and his nickname, the value for that is Leo. And then I have weapon, katanas, I have a quote for him. And then I have a bio for him. So I have 5 different things, and that's what you're going to need to have as well for each. So this Leo here is considered one item, right? And then I gave him 5 different attributes, key value pairs. So then I have Raph, so that would be 2, and then I have Michelangelo's 3, and then I have Donatello, which is 4. For this assignment, you guys need to have at least 7. So just be aware of that. And each one of those needs to have at least 5 attributes, key value pairs, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the first thing you'll want to do. And you're not really going to want to mess around with arrays or anything. I mean, you can if you want, but I'm just sticking to the simplest format here for the JSON document. Okay. All right, so let's hop into the HTML file. We'll get this built out. So obviously I need to link the style sheet to it. All right, and then down here we're going to be using JavaScript for all of our JavaScript. Did I say JavaScript? For all of our JavaScript, I meant jQuery. So we're going to be using jQuery. So I embedded the library there. If you don't remember how to do that, remember, just Google jQuery Google. And this is one of the many ways of doing it. I go here, click on jQuery here, and I used the 3.x snippet. So I grabbed that, just copied that, and then put it here. And then I'm embedding the script that I'm going to be creating in here. You got to make sure you embed this after you embed jQuery, because this is going to be using jQuery commands, and if the jQuery library hasn't been put in yet, it won't work. So order does matter here. All right, so I'm going to create a div. I'm going to give it an ID of search area. So this is going to be, basically the whole thing here. well, no, this is going to be where I have my search box and things like that. And I'm going to create, well, I'm not going to do the label first. Let's do, yeah, I'll do the label. Why not? So it's just not going to make a lot of sense. So I'm going to do a label for something that's going to have the ID of search. We'll go over that when we get there. I'm going to throw in my image. This is going to be the logo here that I already pulled offline. Throw in a break tag. I'm going to have the, yep. And then I think I spelled label wrong, which I did. Boom, label. Okay, and then I'm going to have some instructions here. Just search for a Ninja Turtle. And then I'm going to have the search box. So type, I'll do search. This gets styled depending on what type of browser you're on. It gets styled a little differently, but this is going to be a search box. So the name of it's going to be search. The ID of it is going to be search. And then I'm going to throw in a placeholder that just says search for a turtle. So if we save it and take a look, it's nothing too special yet, but I got the logo here. Okay, and then I have, basically this is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles search, and then it's going to tell what we're going to do, search for Ninja Turtle, and then there's my placeholder, search for a turtle, and there's my input box. Okay, sweet. Now I want a few spaces here, so I'm going to throw in a couple break tags. Then I'm going to throw in a div, and I'm going to give it an ID of update. And this is going to be the div where I'm going to load all the information into. That, I'm going to double check my notes here. That should be it for the HTML file. So we have the div here that's kind of like the header basically. To be honest, I'm probably going to shrink down that image here in a minute, but we'll see. So this is kind of the title, this is the instructions, this is the search box that they're going to type into, and then we have a div down here that's going to hold all the information that gets searched through. So when I type in some stuff, it's going to show up down here in the update div. Alrighty. So let's hop over to script, and I'm going to start writing the script that I need to be able to do this. So, yeah, let's just trying to figure the order here. We'll do this. Okay, so again, we're writing jQuery. So it's going to be a little bit different than just like pure JavaScript. But the cool thing about jQuery is it does, the same stuff that JavaScript does, but it's a lot less code, which is nice. So it has this get JSON method that is just kind of built in, and it knows exactly what it needs to do. So it's going to go out and it's going to get data.json, okay, which is right here. Right, this has all my information in it, the turtle stuff, all that stuff that I need to get. Okay, and when it goes out and gets it, it's going to run a function. Okay, and it's going to pass the information from this data file, from this JSON file, into data, is what we're doing here. Okay, and then I'm going to throw in some curly brackets. Actually, well, before we do that, I'm going to close that out, come over here, curly bracket, hit enter, and then close it out here. So it's going to go out there, get the JSON file, pass all the JSON data into this variable here called data. Okay, and then we're going to play around with it and do things with it. So I'm going to set up a variable called output, kind of like what we've done before. I'm going to set it equal to an unordered list. So this is what I'm going to kind of output to the page. And I'm going to give it a class of results. So if I want to style it later, I can. Okay, now I'm going to use another jQuery command called each, and it's like a for each loop. And what it's going to do is loop through all the stuff in this JSON file. Okay, so we can display it all to the page. So it's basically like a for each loop. So it's going to go through data, okay, which is right over here. Remember, this is taking all the JSON data, throwing it inside of data here. So it's going to loop through data. And then I'm going to run another function when it loops. And I've set up these temporary variables called key and val. Okay, and then I'm going to set up those curly brackets again, hit enter a couple times. All right, so each time it goes through one of those JSON objects, it's going to run this function. The keys are going to be stored inside of key, and the values are going to be stored inside of val. So remember, the keys are name, nick, weapon, quote. The values, Leonardo, Leo, katanas, and so forth. All right, so yeah, here we go. So I'm going to start putting in output. Just going to start adding on to it. So I'm outputting a list item. I'm going to output a header tag. And what's going to be inside of this is going to be value, okay, dot name, okay. I'll close out the header tag there. Okay, so you're really going to need to kind of decide how you want to output this. So you got to take a look at your JSON data, and I'm basically going to have their name kind of as a header. Then underneath, I'll say, hey, their nickname is Leo, and their weapon, their preferred weapon is this, and here's a quote, and then here's a bio. So it's going to be up to you how you put this to the page. It doesn't really matter to me, just as long as it looks good and it's organized well and easily read. All right, so anyways, so we'll keep going. So I'm going to say output. Now I'm just going to throw in there the image, right? So image source equals quote. Okay, this is where you're going to need to start being kind of careful with your quotes and such. So I'm going to go inside of the images folder, right? And I'm going to have Leo show up first. So it's leo.jpg, capital L. But I'm going to pull that from the JSON data because what I did is the nickname I'm going to use for the images as well. So I basically gave all of the images the same name as their nickname. So Raf, I got Raf .jpg, Leo, Leo.jpg. So I'm going to use the nicknames for the images. Okay, so go into the images folder. Okay, and then I'm going to add val.nick. Okay, because we're getting that from the JSON, nick, right? And that's going to be Leo. Now one other thing you got to be careful about though is I have all of these as JPEGs. And they all need to be the same. If any of these were a PNG, this wouldn't work. Okay, so they all got to be the same file format. So JPEG, okay, and then I'm going to close out that quote. Then I'm going to give it an alt attribute just to make sure my code validates. And the alt attribute is going to be, we'll just go name. So Leonardo will be the alt attribute. And then I'll close out the image tag and then close out that line. So just be really careful. Remember, you can't have double quotes inside a double quote. So I started out with double quotes, so any quotes that I need inside of the double quotes are going to be single. All right, so we got images slash the nickname dot JPEG. Okay, and then that close out the quote. So the quote for that value is good. So we have the source attribute, the quote there, the Adin quote there. Then we have the alt attribute equals. Okay, and then the attribute, and then we should be good there. All right, so I'm going to keep going. And again, I already kind of played around with this and got it to work the way I wanted, so this may take you guys a while, and that's totally fine. So now I'm going to throw in a p tag. I'm going to bold this. I'm going to say nickname. And then close out the b tag. The nickname is going to be val.nick. If you're going, wait, where's Val? We got Val from up here, remember? Okay, so we're looping through all of the JSON data, and we're saving them here inside of these temporary variables. So value is going to hold all of the values here. Okay, so concatenate that and close out the p tag. Now I could do this whole thing on one line, just output plus equals, and then do all of these, but I'm not doing it. It's just easier to read this way. So each section I'm going to have it be on its own line. Okay, next thing I'm going to throw in here is weapon of choice. Kill the bold there. Plus val weapon. Plus, and then I'm going to close out the p tag. Now, I'm not done yet, but I do want to see if what I'm doing right now works. So I'm going to come down here, come outside of the loop. So when I'm done looping, I'm going to say output plus equals. We're going to add more later. But I'm going to close out of that unordered list. Okay, and then here's the document.getElementById statement in jQuery. It's a lot smaller. It's a lot easier to write. So I'm going to select the update div, okay, which is right here. ID equals update. I'm going to select that update div. I'm going to go .html, which is basically the same as saying .innerHTML. And it's going to be equal to output. So that one statement is the same thing as document.getElementById, dot innerHTML equals output, but it's just so much shorter, which is nice. All right, so let's see what happens here. Okay, cool. There's Leo. So it is starting to work. Let's make this a little smaller. All right, so output, it starts out with the unordered list. It has a list item. Okay, the first list item has an h2 tag, and it's the name, which is Leonardo. Okay, we close out the h2 tag, then we throw in that image. If we look at here, it shows the, where is it? Yeah, right there. It didn't put in an alt attribute. I think I need like a quote here. Save that and see if it does it. I don't know. If not, I don't really care. It's not really that important to me. Nope. That's okay. Anyways, yeah, I don't know what's going on with that alt attribute, but like I said, not a huge deal on this one. Okay, so anyways, throws in the image. Okay, then you have in the p tag, you have nickname. Okay, Leo pulls that from the JSON file. Okay, it's in a different p tag, so it goes down to weapon of choice, and it's bold. Okay, you got the space, and then it's pulling that from the JSON as well. And then there's Raf's. Okay, and there's Michelangelo's, and then there's Donatello's. All right, so now we're just going to keep going. Going to keep adding to this. So I got the weapon now. I'm going to throw in the bio now. So output, going to keep adding to it. Just put it again in its own p tag. Put that in the b tag. We're going to say bio space. Close out the bold. And we're just going to pull it from the JSON. So val.bio. And then when the bio is done printing out, we'll close out the p tag. So you got to figure out how you're going to display this information on the page and what exactly you're going to be displaying. Because I got the biography, the quote. So did I do the quote? Oh, that's what I'm doing next. So again, p tag. Say quote. Close out the b tag. Val.quote. Or what did I call it? Crap, just killed it. Yeah, just quote. That's what I thought. So anyways, right here, so quote, and then same thing, just close out that p tag. Now the quote's going to be a little different. I want the quotes to be in italics, and I want them to actually have quotations around them. We did this, I think, last week. At least not the italicized, but I want them to be italicized, and then I also want the quote, right? I want to pull that in there. And then also, I'm going to end it out. Okay, and then I'm going to close the italics. All right, then the last thing I need to do here is just close that list item. Holy cow, one day I will be able to type, hopefully. Okay, cool. Now I can save it and get an idea if it's doing what I want. So, yep, Leo, nickname, Leo, weapon of choice, katanas. Okay, there's his biography, and there's his quote. Yep, I did this last time, I think, too. I keep forgetting it's quot, not quote. So Q-U-O-T. There we go. So remember right here, I call them like, I don't know, alt codes or something, but you can put, I don't know the official name for these, escape characters or something like that, but that gives me these quotes here because it's a quote. I want it to be in quotations. And if I throw in regular quotes, remember if I do something like that, it messes up all of these quotes that I'm using. So I don't want to do that. All right, but that's doing everything I want, and it's pulling everything from the JSON document. Okay, and you got to make sure you're doing that too. It's pulling the name, it's pulling the nickname, it's pulling the weapon, it's pulling the quote, and the bio. It's pulling all 5 of those. Okay, so name, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pulling all the stuff. Doing the same thing with Raf, same thing with Michelangelo, same thing with Donnie. It's working for all of them. So happy days. All right, now right now when we type, well, okay, we're not really getting any of the search functionality going on. So that's gonna be what we do next here. And it's actually not too bad. It's not too bad on how you do this. So I'm going to come up here, create some new variables. And we're going to have to talk about some new things as well. Well, actually, no, we're not going to do this yet. So we need to come up here and we need to basically tell all of this to be ran at a certain time. And when it's going to be ran is when we type in keys. So jQuery has this a list of events, clicking, right-clicking, mousing over, mouse out, things like that. But there's a key up event. So when I press a key and then let go, it will trigger that event and do something. And that's what we're going to want. So every time I type in something and let go, it's going to run the search function to see if it can find what you're typing in. All right, so we're going to go up here. Okay, we're going to use the selector. We're going to say search. So if you don't remember what search is, if we head back over here, it's right here, this label. Okay, and remember, I guess I didn't explain this. This label is for the element with the ID of search. So if I come down here, oh, it's this input. It's the text box. Okay, and all that really does is I can click up here. Like if I click off and then click up here on the label, it will then select this. That's all it's really doing. That's what labels do, is it makes it so when you click on other things, it will activate another element. I think I can do it there as well. Okay. Anyways, so we're going to come back to the script and we're going to say search, which is that input box, right? ID of search. So when we key up in there, that's going to be the event. We're going to run a function. Oops, wrong way. Okay, we're going to run a function, throw in the curly brackets, hit enter a couple times, close it out. Now what we want to be ran every time we key up in here is we want all of this to be ran. So I'm going to take all of this and cut it, and I'm just going to paste it in here. Okay, and I'm going to kind of just going to tab over to make all this make a little bit more sense. Okay, you just got to be really careful when you do this part. So we've just created a new function, right, that's triggered whenever we do key up. Okay, and we have this bracket here that's closed down there. This bracket closes the function up here when we get the JSON data. Okay, and then we have this bracket here that closes the function that's looping through and grabbing all the information. So just make sure all of these line up with everything. All right, so that's the first thing we want to do there, is set up that key up event. Okay, then in here we're going to set up a couple of variables. The first one I'm going to call search field, and it's going to be equal to, this again is a quick little get element by ID statement that you can do in jQuery. Search, and I'm going to grab the value of it. So this one little statement here, what it's doing is it's going out to the HTML file. It's looking for the ID of search, which is right here, this little text box here, and it's grabbing the value of it. So it goes out there, finds the ID of search, grabs the value of it, and then stores it inside of search field. So if I go in here and type in ASDF, well, at the end of that function, right, because I did 4 key ups. This was actually ran 4 times. But at the end of that, search field is going to be equal to ASDF. So right now what we're seeing here is if I refresh, okay, it doesn't really do anything. I type an A in there, and then it displays all of them because we haven't put in the logic to actually search, because when I do a key up, it runs all of this, and so then it outputs everything. So we know that's working, but now we're starting with this variable here, and we got to actually tell it to search and take a look at what was typed in, match it up with things, and then display what only has that in there. All right, so we're going to do another thing called an expression. So I'm going to set up another variable called myXP, exp, and then I'm going to set up a new object called regular expression. Okay. Now we need to take a look at a couple things before we do this. First thing we need to know is, okay, what the heck is a regular expression? Okay, right here it tells us it's an object that describes a pattern of characters. Okay, and the way you set this up, let's see if I don't know if this one really shows us, but in this case, the pattern of characters is just going to be what we type in. Regular expressions can be used to do form validation. You can use them to say, hey, take a look at this string and see if there's an @ symbol in there. Or go look at this string and see if there's a .com in there. You can set up different patterns that look for capital letters, lowercase letters, @ symbols. Does it have an exclamation point? I mean, it's just a way to evaluate strings and see what type of stuff's in there. But in this case, we're not doing anything that crazy. All we're doing is we're setting up a pattern, and the pattern is just going to be whatever the word I type in. So if I type in the word hi, the pattern is going to be hi, and it's going to look for hi in all the JSON data. Okay, so that's all we're doing here. Now, if we come over here, this is Mozilla's entry on this. This is how it's set up. We say new regular expression, we give the pattern, and then we give flags. And the flags can be these other variables, but we're going to do I, and I is going to tell us to ignore case. In other words, if we type in a G, it's going to look for an uppercase G or a lowercase g. It doesn't matter. And that's what we want it to do. We want it to ignore the case and what we type in, because if we type in a capital H, like if we go in here and type in a capital L, it'll find Leonardo, but if we type in a lowercase l, it won't. It'll skip over that because it's not the same. So we want this regular expression to ignore the case. So the way we do this is the first thing we have to give it, remember, is the pattern, because that's what it wants. It wants the pattern first, and then it needs to know what flags to look out for. So the pattern we're going to give it is search field, because that's going to be the value of what they typed inside of that text box. All right, so the pattern is going to be search field. Okay, and the flag that we're giving it is ignore uppercase and lowercase. So we're setting up that regular expression. Now we got to come in here and basically set up an if statement that says, hey, if you find what's been typed in inside the JSON data, then display it. Okay, and we're going to do that in our loop. So each time the loop runs, we're going to check to see if it exists. So we'll come over here, and it's going to be right underneath the each, and we're going to throw in the if statement. So we'll do one at a time, and then we'll go from there. So if val.name.search, okay, and what is it searching for? It's searching for whatever's saved in my regular expression here. So my XP, EXP, whatever. Okay, does not equal -1, then do something. Okay, and what we want it to do is all this stuff. So I'm going to grab that, come down here, and I'm going to close out the if statement right here. Now, because now this is in an if statement, I'm going to tab this over just to make it visually make more sense for us. Okay, so now we're going, all right, what the heck is this? What's this search thing? Okay, well, we got to take a look at that as well. Okay, so this is a search method. This is a built-in command that works that, like it says here, executes a search for a match between a regular expression and a string object. Okay, so the way you do it is just what we said. We said search, and then we told it to search the regular expression. If it finds something, then it's going to return Well, like it says here, return value, the index of the first match between the regular expression and the given string. If not found, it returns a -1. So that's where that -1 is coming from. So if this returns something that isn't equal to -1, then we know it's been found. And if it's been found, then we're going to output it. Okay. Now the problem is this is only searching the name, val.name. So it's only searching right here and right here and right here. It's not searching any of this other stuff. It's only searching the name key value pair in the JSON file. All right. So let's test that though to see if it worked. So open this, just kind of refresh the page here, and I'll type in M. All right, Michelangelo, he's the only one that came up, and that's good because he's the only one with an M in his name. We can go D. Well, Leonardo showed up because he has a D in his name. Donatello showed up because he has a D in his name. All right, so we know it's working now. Okay, so remember, we type in D, we let go, it fires off this function because we just did a key up. Okay, it goes out there and it stores D because that's what we just typed in. That's the value of that input box. It stores D inside a search field. Okay, then we set up a new regular expression inside of myXP here, and we pass it the two parameters that it wants. It wants to know, okay, what is the regular expression? Like, what is the pattern that I'm looking for? The pattern that it's looking for is D. It's the character D. And we're telling it to ignore the case. It's case insensitive, right? So it'll be looking for an uppercase D or a lowercase d. And that's stored inside of myAXP. Okay, it goes out, grabs the JSON data, right? Okay, it starts the unordered list. It loops through everything. Okay, and if the value.name, it searches all of the names with the pattern of D. Okay, and if it, so what it'll do is it goes through Leonardo first, right? Looks at name and says, oh, yep, there's a D. And because there's a D inside of the name of Leonardo, it displays everything about him. Okay, then it goes through the next one. Looks at Raphael and says, all right, looks for the pattern of D. Is D in there? Nope, it's not. So it doesn't display anything about Raph. It just skips over him completely. Same thing, it looks into the name. There's no D in Michelangelo, so it skips all over that. But there's a D in Donatello, so it displays everything. Okay, so when it goes through Leo, it searches for that D and it returns something that isn't -1, so it prints out Leo stuff. Okay, it goes to Raph. Well, it doesn't find a D inside of Raphael, so it returns -1, so it skips all that for Raph. Okay, so that's just what's going on behind the scenes. Okay, now if we want this to search, and you do want it to search because this is part of the assignment, is we want it to search the name, want it to search the nickname, weapon of choice, bio. We want it to search all this stuff. So we just got to add to this if statement. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put this whole condition in parentheses. Because what that does is it runs stuff inside of parentheses first. So it'll run all this, and this will either give us a -1 or something else if it finds it. Okay, but we're going to throw in an or statement. So, and then we just put in the other stuff. So val.bio.search, it's searching the regular expression of myXP, and if it doesn't equal -1, then print all the stuff out. So you need a condition for every one of your JSON key value pairs here. So val.bio, we're going to search inside the bio, or val.weapon.search myexp, okay, not equal to -1, and then so forth. Oops, forgot the parenthesis there. So again, be careful with the parentheses, but you're just going to go through and they have the double parentheses, right? Because you have the parentheses for the if statement, and then you've put all of these conditions in their own parentheses. So it'll run all this first and then return either something or -1, and it'll be able to check all of that. So you're going to have 5 conditions here. So val, I think I did nick, search nick, myexp is not equal to -1. What's the last one? We got name, weapon, bio, nick. I think it's quote, right? Yep. So, or val.quote search myexp is not equal to -1. Now, don't do this because, laziness is kicking in, but if you're like, you know what, I really don't want some of these to be searched, then okay, fine. Because to be honest, the more you put in here, the crappier the search may become, because I just put F in there and now they all show up, right? Because all of them have F in there somewhere. But as you start to type, as I type in size, okay, it starts to dial in a little bit more. Or maybe I want to search for confidant, right? So confidant, right? No one else has confidant in there. I can do Bo. It's like I'm going to do Bo. So B-O, Michelangelo in there. Okay, and the minute I get to Bo, it's only Donatello because of Bo staff. So yeah, you'll want to have, a condition for all of your different properties, key value pairs, whatever you want to call them. Okay, so that's it for the functionality of it. Now you just need to make it pretty, right? It's totally working. It's doing exactly what I want. The search is working. Everything showed up the way I want here. So I'm going to show you how I styled this. I don't want yours to look like mine. That's all I'm going to say. Style it on your own. You guys should all be good with CSS now and be able to do what you want to do here. But I'm going to show you how I styled it just to give you an idea of how you access the different parts of the page. Get rid of that. Okay, but anyways, let's hop into it. So I hop into the CSS here. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to style the body. And I don't know why, but I'm just like obsessed with Cadet Blue because it's just like a cool color and a cool name. Save that. I'm going to come over here to make sure it worked. Okay, so my CSS is hooked up and it is working. Good. And then I want the font on the whole page to be just Arial. I like that better than the default font. Okay, so search for Ninja Turtle changed, and also the text inside of there. Okay, now I'm going to mess with search area. Actually, let's split it now, just so we can kind of visualize what we're doing here. So I'm going to be messing with search area. It's just the part that is kind of the header that holds this stuff. Okay, I'm going to start styling that. First thing I do is I'm going to go margin 0 auto. It's going to center everything. I hope, maybe. Did I spell everything right? Search area. Text align center. I want everything to kind of be centered in there. And I don't need that. Okay, so centered everything, and it centered all of the text inside of there as well. So that's why search and search for Ninja Turtle and the input are all centered as well. But if I start typing, yeah, this isn't centered, but that's okay. We're going to mess with that. But that's all I wanted. I wanted this centered, change the font to Arial and so forth. Okay, let's see here. I want the label to be a little bit bigger. So right here where I have search, this text here, I want to mess with that. So I'm going to go into search area, search area label. I'm just going to mess with the font size. I'll go 26 pixels, and I want it to be bold. Okay, so I got that a little bit bigger, and I bolded it. So I want it to be basically Nickelodeon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles search. I kind of want that to be part of it. Okay, so that's all I did there. Then I'm going to mess with the input box because this is very defaulty and gross. I want it to look cooler. So search area input. And what I did to this is I gave it a border radius of 10 pixels. Okay, and that just kind of rounded it out a little bit. I think that always makes it look better. I gave it a deeper border, so solid 3 pixels, and I want the border to be black. Okay, so it's just a thicker border. Okay, that's really all I did there. Just made it a thicker border. Padding, the padding I want to be inside of there is just 10 pixels all around. Okay, just made it a little bit bigger, gave me some more room. So now there's 10 pixels of padding on the top, bottom, left, and right. That's what padding 10 does. It just gives you pixels, 10 pixels of padding all around. The color, of course, needs to be cadet blue as I'm typing things in to match the background. Heck yeah. I want this to be a little wider. Right now, I don't know, I just don't think it's as wide as I want it to be, so I'm going to make it 300 pixels wide. Okay, I like that. I like it how it's a little bit bigger there. Okay, and the font I think is a little too small, so font dash size. Make it 14 pixels big. A little bit bigger, I like that, but that's just me. All right, next thing I messed with is update. Okay, update, remember, is the div that contains all the stuff that's getting printed out to the page when it finds it. So I'm going to have the width of this div be 70%. I don't want it to go all the way across. So as I start typing it in, okay, it's giving me a 70% width. If I get rid of that, it goes all the way across, and I don't really like that. Okay, now it's only doing 70%. I want this to be centered too, so margin 0 auto. Okay, it's centered now. You know what? 70 might be too small. Let's go 80. That looks a little bit better. Okay, and I want there to be a border. The kind of border top. 2 pixels and solid black. I just wanted it to be up here. Just a kind of a division, just a visual divide basically that separates the searching from right here. That's all I'm doing. All right. Right now it's still acting like a list. It has that bullet. I don't want that anymore. So I'm going to be messing with the unordered list there inside. What I'm going to do to it is list style, none. That'll get rid of the bullet. Okay, no more bullets, which is good. Happy days. And you can see there's just some space There's some padding and margins that are just there by default on the lists, and I don't want that, so I'm just going to get rid of them. Okay, now it kind of goes all the way, and that's kind of what I want, is I want it to be as wide as this divider thing up here, basically. So that's all I did to the unordered list. Now we're going to go update ULLI, so all the list items. This is basically all this stuff is the list items. Okay, I'm going to give it a border bottom. So now it has another divide, right? So we have one at the top, and then each one has a little visual divide in between each. I just like that. I thought it looked pretty good. I want to throw some padding on the bottom, just to give a little bit more space in between each. Okay, now part of the assignment says when these things show up, they need to be collapsed. So when I'm doing a search, I don't have to scroll down forever to find everything. So the way we do that is I'm going to give these a height of 140 pixels. Okay, right now it looks like gross disgustingness. So I got to say overflow hidden. Okay, and then there we go. Now we can see more in one view, and we get a good shot of their faces too. So I found that 140 just kind of works for all these pictures. So I like that. Okay, let's see, we'll do that later. Do that last anyways. So skip down, I had some other stuff. Okay, so now we'll keep going. Now we need the, remember we talked about when you hover, I want it to display. So when I hover over it, I want the height to be 395. Okay, and I've already kind of went through and I found this is a good value that works for all of them. So now when I mouse over, let's make this a little bigger. So when I mouse over, it expands and I see the rest. Now I can't see it all because I'm actually going to float these to the left so the information will be up here. But now when I mouse over, mouse out, it expands, and that's what we want. Okay. Cool. We're getting there, guys. All right, now I'm going to mess with their images. Just these, the images here. And I'm going to float them left. Now the text is to the side of them, and that's what I want. I want a little bit more of a margin here, so margin right. I didn't like how they were just stuck right up against there, so the margin right for the images kind of pushed the text over, gave it some space. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom here, but just do 5 pixels, just to kind of give some space down here. Then this is kind of cool. You can give a border radius to images as well. So make them rounded, which I thought was pretty slick. I liked that. Okay, so we're basically good now. Right now, as we start searching, okay, when I type in Leo, I get Leo and Raf. So, yep, Leo's in here as well in the quote, so that's why Raf shows up. So that's still working, but the thing that I don't really like is when I mouse over it, it's really jerky motion. So I want a little bit smoother stuff. Also, as I'm typing in stuff, they just kind of disappear, and I want more of a fade effect in there. So the two things I'm going to add is I'm going to set up a keyframe animation. So keyframes, and I'm going to call this fade in out. So this is like my own little animation that I'm creating. This is what the keyframes does inside of CSS. And at the beginning of the animation, in other words, 0% at the beginning of the animation, I want the opacity to be 0. And then when the animation is complete, in other words, it's 100% done, I want the opacity to be 100%, which is 1. Opacity of 1 is 100% visible. Opacity of 0 is completely invisible. So now that I've created this animation called fade out, or fade in out, I need to apply it somewhere. And I'm going to apply it up here. So animation, fade in out, and I want it to take 1 second. So basically what this is saying is whenever an LI on the page gets added or taken away or updates or whatever, I'm going to run this animation called fade in out, and I'm going to have it take 1 second. It comes down here and goes, okay, this animation fade in out tells me to put it at 0 opacity and then put it at 100% opacity in 1 second. So this just makes it so when I come up here and the list items start, oh my gosh, let me refresh that. When the list items, when I start typing it, see how they kind of fade in. And then every time I type, it fades them in and then fades it out and gets rid of them and so forth. So it gives kind of a cooler effect. And it gets ran every time the key up happens. So graph. So it just makes it look a little slicker. Okay, and the last thing is when I mouse over, I want it to be animated. I don't want it to just kind of, I want it to be a little smooth animation. Kind of like if you've seen them, they're called accordions. So we can take a look at that. And that's going to be pretty easy to do. I'm just going to come right here on the LI and I'm going to say transition, and the property that I want to transition is height. I want it to take 0.3 seconds. Okay, and I'm going to have it ease out. So this says basically whenever one of these list items height changes, we're going to animate it, and it's going to take 0.3 seconds to animate. So whenever height changes of this list item, we animate it, we give it an ease out, and it would take 0.3 seconds to work. Well, when does the height change? The height changes whenever we hover here. So every time we hover and the height changes, it's going to animate it with an ease out and have it take 0.3 seconds. All right, so we'll do like Mikey. And when we mouse over, now you can see we kind of get this accordion effect. So I'll type in nickname. Well, that isn't going to work because it's searching the values of the nicknames. It's not searching this stuff. So type in A. Okay, so that gets come down, that comes down. So we get this cool little accordion effect. So we can read it all, mouse out, read this all, mouse out, scroll up and down, and so forth. It's kind of cool. All right, so guys, style this up, make it look amazing, make sure the JSON data is getting pulled in correctly, make sure the search function is working, style up everything as well as you can. If you have any questions, let me know. This is due in 2 weeks. And then, yeah, but that's really all you need to do. I kind of showed you everything you need to be able to do this. And I think it's a cool little project to be able to know how to do. So any questions, let me know. Good luck, guys. We will talk to you soon.